Afternoon of August 13th, 2025. The inter-village road leading to Kishangarh town, Ajmer, Rajasthan, was as peaceful as ever. A young couple had just left their relative's house after Raksha Bandhan, the day when brothers and sisters exchange blessings. But just hours later, the wife, Sanju Saini, 25, collapsed on the side of the road, suffering fatal injuries. Her husband, Rohit Saini, 28, told police with a trembling voice, "We were attacked by robbers. They took my wife's jewelry and left." The story sounded plausible, but no one expected that when the CCTV footage was opened, when each statement was compared, everything led to a horrifying truth. The killer of Sanju was none other than the person who had been his wife. Why did Rohit do it? For money, for love, or because of a secret that Sanju had not yet told? And how could a murder be so perfectly disguised? Join us as we retrace every step, from a peaceful morning to the moment an invisible blade pierced the heart of a family. Kishangarh, a town in the Ajmer district of Rajasthan, is famous for its marble quarries, sculpture workshops, and morning markets filled with bargaining. Here, people know each other by face and even by family. Such peace makes it difficult for anyone to imagine a cold-blooded crime. Rohit Saini, 28, is a young man of ordinary appearance with a sturdy build because he is used to working as a laborer. He is known to be an active member of the community, holding a minor position in a local organization. Many people say that Rohit is a good talker, making a good impression right from the first meeting. Sanju Saini, 25, Rohit's wife, is a gentle, quiet girl. She was born into a farming family in a neighboring village and grew up amid wheat fields and smooth dirt roads. Sanju is not highly educated but knows how to do all the housework, from cooking, cleaning, to taking care of her elderly parents. To the neighbors, Sanju is the epitome of a traditional wife, patient and devoted. The two got married 3 years ago. Their life is not rich but enough to be proud of, with a small house, a motorbike, and some gold jewelry, most of which is a dowry from the wedding day. Rohit is a frequent traveler. Work and social commitments keep him from staying at home for long periods of time. Sanju, on the other hand, spends most of his time within the four walls, occasionally visiting his parents or meeting relatives. From the outside, their marriage looked normal. But sometimes peace is just a thin layer of paint covering the cracks that are spreading inside. In the months leading up to Raksha Bandhan 2025, Rohit and Sanju's lives seemed to be moving along a familiar trajectory. In the morning, Rohit would leave home early, wearing a faded shirt, and ride his old motorbike to town. Sanju, as usual, would stay home, cook breakfast, sweep the yard, and take care of every little corner of the house. But to those who were observant, the change had crept into the family atmosphere long ago. Rohit started coming home later, sometimes disappearing for days with the excuse of going to work. Sanju, who was usually quiet, became even quieter. Her eyes, whenever she looked at her husband, were no longer filled with warm anticipation, but instead with hesitation, mixed with anxiety. Neighbors said they heard arguments several times during the night, not loud but enough to sense the tension. The content was vague. Sometimes it was about money, sometimes it was about phone calls Rohit received while he was out. A close friend of Sanju said that about a week before her death, she confided that her husband was having trouble with some acquaintances. She did not specify what the trouble was, just smiled wryly and said, "Men's business. I can't interfere." Around that time, Rohit began to pay unusual attention to his wife's jewelry, especially the bracelets and gold necklace that Sanju always wore. To outsiders, they were just ordinary wedding gifts. But to Rohit, it seemed like they had become something more. A week, then a few days, no one knew that Sanju's time was counting down. August 13th, 2025. Morning in Kishangarh. Golden sunlight spreads like honey on the narrow lanes leading into the village. This is Raksha Bandhan, the day when sisters tie protective threads on the hands of their brothers, praying for their good health and protection. Rohit and Sanju left home early and went to Sanju's brother's house together. Throughout the ceremony, Sanju kept smiling, skillfully preparing food, and chatting with everyone. But in the eyes of some relatives, she seemed a bit tired, occasionally glancing at her husband with an unpredictable look. Around early afternoon, the two left. Sanju carried a few gift packages and was still wearing her full jewelry. Gold bracelets, earrings, necklace, a gift from her family and a wife's pride. The road from Sanju's brother's house to theirs was quite deserted, with abandoned fields on both sides and only occasional passers-by. Rohit drove the motorbike. Sanju sat behind, his arms tightly holding the gift package. According to Rohit's initial statement, when they reached that stretch of road, two strangers on a motorbike approached from behind. One of them jumped down, pulled out a knife and overpowered them. Within seconds, they snatched Sanju's jewelry and stabbed her before escaping. It sounded plausible. But what the police found later, from CCTV footage from miles away to unusual injuries on Rohit's body, told a different story. Before leaving his family's house, a detail that many people overlooked. Rohit received a call, stepped outside to talk for more than 5 minutes, his voice low but sharp. When he came back, he smiled a smile that no one understood. And at that moment, the fateful clock began to count down. At around 3:20 p.m., the road in the middle of the field was still deserted. Rohit slowed down the car. Sanju asked in surprise, "Why did you stop?" He didn't answer, just pulled the car over to the side of the road. In Rohit's pocket, a small folding knife silently glinted in the sunlight. The movement was so quick that Sanju only had time to let out a small cry. The knife hit her square in the stomach, causing her to bend over. Everything that followed was like a wordless nightmare. Sanju collapsed on the side of the road. Blood was seeping into the hem of her light-colored sari. Breathing raggedly, she looked at her husband, her eyes filled with utter shock rather than pain. A single question seemed to echo in those eyes. Why? Rohit was calmer than one would expect. He removed all the jewelry from Sanju's body, put it in a cloth bag and used his wife's towel to wipe the knife. Then he leaned the motorbike against a tree, took out another small knife from the saddle and lightly slashed his arm, creating a fake wound. About 10 minutes later, a passerby saw Rohit struggling next to his wife, shouting, "Robbery, robbery and murder." The scene was perfectly staged. The husband was injured, the wife was unconscious, the jewelry was gone. When the police arrived, Rohit gave a shaky account of the entire robbery. None of the witnesses doubted his words. But what Rohit didn't expect was that everything was accidentally recorded, not at the scene, but from a few kilometers away, at an intersection with a surveillance camera. In that CCTV footage, Rohit and Sanju are seen passing without anyone following them. There is no bike behind them. And from that moment, the robbery story starts to fall apart. At around 3:20 p.m., the road in the middle of the field was still deserted. Rohit slowed down the car. Sanju asked in surprise, "Why did you stop?" He didn't answer, just pulled the car over to the side of the road. In Rohit's pocket, a small folding knife silently glinted in the sunlight. The movement was so quick that Sanju only had time to let out a small cry. The knife hit her square in the stomach, causing her to bend over. Everything that followed was like a wordless nightmare. In Rohit's pocket, a small folding knife silently glinted in the sunlight. The movement was so quick that Sanju only had time to let out a small cry. The knife hit her square in the stomach, causing her to bend over. Everything that followed was like a wordless nightmare. Rohit was calmer than one would expect. He removed all the jewelry from Sanju's body, put it in a cloth bag and used his wife's towel to wipe the knife. Then he leaned the motorbike against a tree, took out another small knife from the saddle, and lightly slashed his arm, creating a fake wound. About 10 minutes later, a passerby saw Rohit struggling next to his wife, shouting, "Robbery, robbery and murder." The scene was perfectly staged. The husband was injured, the wife was unconscious, the jewelry was gone. When the police arrived, Rohit gave a shaky account of the entire robbery. None of the witnesses doubted his words. But what Rohit didn't expect was that everything was accidentally recorded, not at the scene, but from a few kilometers away, at an intersection with a surveillance camera. In that CCTV footage, Rohit and Sanju are seen passing without anyone following them. There is no bike behind them. And from that moment, the robbery story starts to fall apart. When the Kishangarh police received the call, it was nearly 4 p.m. The scene was a deserted stretch of road. The afternoon sun was starting to slant. Sanju lay motionless, his face pale. Beside him, Rohit was holding his bloody arm, his eyes vacant. The initial traces seemed to match the testimony. There was no jewelry left on the victim, the handbag fell next to her, and there were bloodstains on the ground. But with his experience, the lead investigating officer noticed a few unusual points. The wound on Rohit's arm was shallow, just a scratch, not like a knife wound from a fight. Moreover, the victim fell nearly 3 meters away from the motorbike, an unusual distance if the attack happened suddenly. Sanju collapsed on the side of the road. Blood was seeping into the hem of her light-colored sari. Breathing raggedly, she looked at her husband, her eyes filled with utter shock rather than pain. A single question seemed to echo in those eyes. Why? There were no obvious signs of struggle on the victim's body. The fingernails were clean, there were no scratches or strange skin. This makes the attack by robbers hypothesis weak. At the same time, another investigation team was scanning CCTV cameras on the roads leading to the scene. And at an intersection a few kilometers away, a 27-second video clip revealed another truth. Rohit and Sanju passed by, without any motorbikes behind, in front, or on either side. From here, suspicion began to swirl around the husband. But the police needed more evidence, and they knew. The real secret lay in the phone that Rohit always carried with him. The next day, Rohit was called to the Kishangarh police station to give a more detailed statement. He appeared with his arm bandaged and a rumpled shirt. His voice was still shaky, but his eyes were less panicked, as if he believed he had concocted the perfect story. The investigator started with simple questions. Where were you coming from? Zarenya. At what point did you get blocked? Logically, how did they attack? Rohit answered fluently, even gesturing to illustrate. But when asked to describe the appearance of the two robbers, he hesitated. I didn't have time to see clearly. They were wearing helmets. Strangely, he said, one of them also snatched Sanju's gold bracelet and earrings, actions that required time and very close proximity. The investigator opened his laptop and played the 27-second CCTV footage. Rohit stared at the screen. The black and white image was undeniable. The couple walking through the intersection, unfollowed by anyone. At that moment, Rohit blinked faster, licked his lips repeatedly, a psychological sign of stress. The investigator changed his tone, speeding up the questioning. Are you sure it was a robbery? Or did something else happen on that stretch of road? Rohit bowed his head, remained silent for nearly a minute, and then said, I don't remember clearly. This vague answer only added to the pile of suspicion. The police seized Rohit's phone for forensic examination. In the call history, they found a number that had been in frequent contact in the days leading up to the incident, in the name of Ravi Megwal, 20, an old friend of Rohit. And at noon on the day of the incident, Rohit received a call lasting more than 5 minutes from this number. From the call and text message data, the police quickly found the address of Ravi Megwal. This is a 20-year-old man who used to work as a seasonal worker with Rohit. Ravi has no criminal record but has recently encountered financial difficulties. When summoned, Ravi initially claimed he was not involved. But after hours of questioning, a contradiction was revealed. At the time of the incident, Ravi was not at home as he claimed, but appeared near the Kishangarh fields, matching the location data from his phone. Further investigation revealed another suspect, a 15-year-old boy who lived in the same neighborhood as Ravi. He claimed to have been asked to watch Ravi's car and keep his things that afternoon, with the promise of a handsome reward. Putting together the statements, the police reconstructed the plan. Rohit had discussed with Ravi many days ago, wanting to deal with Sanju to seize her gold jewelry, worth hundreds of thousands of rupees. This gold was expected to be sold immediately after the case, divided among the parties involved. With a chain of evidence, from CCTV, phone data, accomplices' statements, the final piece of the crime puzzle was completed. Sanju's killers were not the two invisible robbers, but the husband, along with his accomplices. On August 15, 2025, Just 2 days after the incident, an arrest warrant was issued. A special team of Kishangarh police moved in silence, surrounding the house where Rohit was staying with his family. 6 a.m. There was a loud knock on the wooden door. "Rohit Saini, we have a warrant for your arrest on suspicion of murdering your wife, Sanju Saini." He opened the door, his sleepy face draining of color in seconds. He didn't resist, but his eyes showed shock, or rather the realization that the game was up. At the same time, another team raided Ravi Megwal's house. A brown cloth bag was found under the bed containing all of Sanju's jewelry. On a gold bracelet, the police found Rohit's fingerprints. In the following days, the police strengthened their case with an undeniable chain of evidence. Forensic reports confirmed that Sanju's injuries were consistent with an attack by a passenger in the car. Analysis of phone data demonstrated continuous communication between Rohit and Ravi before, during, and after the incident. The teenager's testimony matched the time and place of the incident. The case file grew thicker with each page, ending with the conclusion: the accused Rohit Saini, with the assistance of Ravi Megwal and a minor accomplice, intentionally murdered his wife with the intention of seizing her property and fabricating a false crime scene. On November 2, 2025, the Ajmer District Court held the first hearing of the shocking Kishangarh case. The courtroom was packed with people: Sanju's relatives, reporters, and curious onlookers. The defendant Rohit Saini appeared in a white prison uniform, his hair cut short, his eyes colder than the first days of his arrest. Next to him were Ravi Megwal and his juvenile accomplice, who was tried in secret under the law to protect minors. The prosecutor opened with a clear chain of arguments: CCTV, phone records, accomplices' statements, physical evidence, all woven into an unbreakable web of evidence. In court, Ravi admitted to his role in surveillance and support, and the 15-year-old boy confirmed that he kept the physical evidence at Ravi's request. Rohit's defense attorney tried to argue that Sanju's death was an accident during a struggle with a robber, but the forensic evidence completely disproved it. The direction of the stab, the distance, and the location of the wound showed that it was intentional. The trial lasted for several days with testimony from more than 20 witnesses. Finally, the jury sentenced Rohit Saini, life imprisonment for murder and robbery; Ravi Megwal, 15 years in prison. The minor accomplice was sent to a reformatory until he turned 21. As the verdict was read, Sanju's mother burst into tears, collapsing into her son's arms. An old, discolored Rakhi fell from her pocket onto the cold, tiled floor. It was a reminder of the last holiday Sanju had ever lived, a day that should have been marked by love, not blood and betrayal. The Kishangarh Ajmer case is not just a story of a cold-blooded crime. It is also a mirror reflecting the fragility of trust in a relationship. Sanju Saini, 25, left this world not at the hands of a stranger, but at the hands of the person she trusted the most. In her final days, Sanju maintained her role as a dutiful wife and daughter-in-law. But her silence could not save her from the cruel plan meticulously prepared by her partner. Rohit Saini, once a husband, a son, an active member of the community, sacrificed everything for greed and selfishness. He thought he could create the perfect scenario, but forgot that the truth always has a way of speaking for itself, be it through a blurry CCTV footage or a fingerprint on a gold bracelet. A life sentence for Rohit, 15 years for Ravi Megwal, and punishment for the juvenile accomplices are all the law can do. But the loss of Sanju's family, a son, a sister, a wife, is irreparable. This case is a reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers are hidden within our own homes, and that the truth, no matter how well hidden, will eventually come out. Care, listen, and protect your loved ones, because sometimes just one question at the right time can save a life.